Recording in progress. Recording in progress. Recording in progress.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is DFG, the man with the golden voice, the lady's choice, and of course, smooth as a Rolls Royce. I'm coming to you live from the 571 where I'm having fun and I'm getting things done. Making it today, we're going to talk about what happened over the last about a little under a week ago at the Black Actors Award or the BAFTAs. I'm gonna play a quick video on, and we're gonna talk about it. But first, before I go, got a couple of things I want to say. Thank you for my family that's on here, Big Al, Miss Sum Sum. Usually Chocolate Pearl, Apple and Bean are on, but sometimes they be behind. But the show must go on. Right now, I'm gonna play the video, and we can talk about it.
Echoes in the room. The night the BAFTA stopped breathing, the lights were bright. The camera is steady, and the room carried that unmistakable hum, the kind that only gathers when the biggest name's in. Film sit shoulder to shoulder, waiting for their moment. It was supposed to be a night of celebration, a night of artistry, a night where the only surprises would come in the form of golden envelopes. But then, something happened that no scriptwriter, no producer, no broadcast engineer could have prepared for. As Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo walked onto the stage to actors whose presence alone commands attention, the room shifted. A sound cut through the air, sharp, jarring, a word that carries centuries of pain and weight. And for a moment, the entire ceremony froze. People looked around, confused, shocked. The broadcast didn't cut away, the delay didn't catch it, and millions of viewers heard it too. Very quickly, the source became known: John Davidson, a Scottish disability advocate and a real-life subject of the BAFTA-nominated film I Swear. Davidson lives with Tourette syndrome, a neurological condition that can cause involuntary vocal tics, including the sudden utterance of socially inappropriate or offensive words. In a room filled with pressure, cameras, and global attention, his tics intensified. But in the seconds before that context reached the public, the world reacted, social media ignited, confusion turned into outrage, outrage turned into debate, and the BAFTA Awards, an event usually remembered for gowns, speeches, and winners, became the center of a global conversation. The BBC issued an apology, acknowledging that the slur had not been removed from the broadcast despite the tape delay. BAFTA followed with its own statement, expressing regret and announcing an internal review. Davidson himself later spoke publicly, explaining how anxiety can amplify Tourette tics and asking not to be judged for something he cannot control. Advocacy groups stepped forward, reminding the world that Tourette syndrome is often misunderstood and that involuntary tics can include taboo language.
Okay. That was a quick one. So let's talk about it. Now I understand, having two sons that are on the spectrum, I can understand inappropriate behavior and I can understand acting out. And it's but saying that, knowing that it bothers you and you're just gonna get nervous during that one I can't get a pass to. I don't know. I might just call me cynical, but yeah, no, I can't do that. What do you think, Big Al?
Well, I understand the condition, but for that word to come out of his mouth, he had to have been thinking that or feeling that. I just refuse to believe that words like that are shouted out. And I know people who have that syndrome, and uh, that's just a cheap excuse.
I agree. I agree. What about you, Miss Summer? First, did you hear about the incident?
I did hear about the incident and I watched the video a couple of times. And yes, I just, apparently uh, when Delroy, I can't remember his name.
Delroy Lindo.
Yes, thank you. And Michael B. Jordan got up and spoke. Apparently, that was not the first time that that gentleman yelled out and said what he said. He did that to a couple of people that got up and spoke. But regardless of the fact, uh, I believe, and oh God, that is a very, I don't even know the word to use. You want, okay, if you have a handicap, you do not want to treat handicapped people any differently. Everybody has a right to live and live on the planet and conduct themselves and but when you are in that type of setting, now they said that the gentleman left early. He didn't stay for the entire show. And so I just believe that he should have just came in the beginning, the red carpet, show, represented for the gentleman that did the movie based off of his life. And then I would have left. If I knew that I would, offend somebody in any type of way, not intentionally, but that it could come off that way, I wouldn't even be in that setting. That's just something that you have to, take under consideration. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. I would have excused myself much earlier than anybody who got up to speak.
Right, right. And that's understandable, but being on our end and knowing, had that been let's say Cat Williams um at the Oscars, not to say that they'll ever invite him, and he did that, do you think that he would be getting that much grace?
I don't think he would have gotten that much grace, but they keep saying, oh, the guy that after he said that, they got up and tried to not cover it up, but they tried to, y'all, if that offended anybody, this is a medical condition, yada, yada, yada. And they tried to, explain it and tried to, not just kind of not make light of it, but they, it's a form of a protection, if you will.
Yes,
You
yes,
know what I mean?
I
They,
agree. I agree. And like I said, it's unfortunate, but being in that situation, knowing you should know yourself, especially if something like that is bound to happen. Just the fact that it happened, the audience that was there, the fact that the BBC they had a 2 hour delay and still didn't cover it up. And, you know, he could, like you said, he could have walked out. Now, it's just, everything's just too convenient, if I'm making sense. I think it's just too convenient. What about you, Miss Kim? Have you heard about this story?
Yes. And the way I heard it was that word did not come out until Delroy, whatever his last name, and Michael
Lindo.
B. Jordan, came on stage. While everybody else was on stage, no outburst came about. So I'm thinking that was a word that had been used previously. And I know with tics, you do have sudden outbursts. And for him to do it when they got on stage to present, it's like, okay, this is something that was said because it was only said once. Usually a tic is said multiple times.
Right.
Because I have watched the TV show Bailey Out Loud that comes on, and she has it. And she says words, but she has been taught. She says some words that's inappropriate, but it's nothing to the point of what he says. It may be something about her fiance, private part, or something out of order. But to be, I don't know the word to use, but to say the N word like that, that word wasn't used in the household. You see what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right.
So it's like a child, if you say that to a small child in the household constantly, what are they going to do when they see a Black person?
They gonna say what they hear.
Exactly. So that's kind of how I looked at it, that he's been around people that said that word in a negative aspect so many times around him that when he got out in this public, in this forum, and he said it now, and he probably knew he wasn't supposed to say it, but he said it.
Right, right. It's just it is
Because
just
I always say, even though a person does have a disability, you are taught right from wrong.
right.
Am I? Because I've worked around people with disabilities. They know better.
Exactly. And when you know better, you're supposed to do better.
Do better. Exactly.
And that's just crazy though. Now I know this is kind of crazy, but Big Al, what if you would you have had a Chris Rock Will Smith moment if you were sitting next to him or near him?
I would have slapped the taste out of his mouth. My thing is this. Again, I'm seeing it all over Georgia, where I live, and I'm seeing it in other states as well. White folks are getting more and more comfortable with saying and doing things that in the past they were reluctant or afraid to do. And T Man in the White House, with all the stuff that he's doing, he's emboldening them. And again, I know people with the syndrome, and yes, there are outbreaks, outbursts, but they are normally just kind of shouts that not really intelligible words. This guy used the word. And so that just tells me that he said that before, that was something that he really felt, and that disability caused it to be said. And I mean, there's no excuse, but I would have slapped the taste out of his mouth.
I
That's
feel like also he used that opportunity to say the word out in public like that.
Yeah.
that's crazy though. It's like you know, it's just it was just too convenient. It was just too convenient. I don't know why, but it was just too convenient and it just came out like that. What's going on, Miss Apple? It's the lady as sweet as Snapple. I know she's been under the weather the last couple of weeks, but it's my sister Apple. What's going on, Apple?
Hey everybody, I finally got my voice back and I'm glad to be back.
We're talking about the BAFTA awards and Mr. Davidson having his Tourette's syndrome. Um, and I asked Big Al, would he had a Chris Rock, Will Smith moment if he was sitting next to him? What is your opinion on that, on how that whole thing went down?
Hmm. Okay, I know that he has a condition and that it causes him to blurt things out, when he has his tics or whatever. And he may not be able to control that. But from what I was reading up on, the words that they do blurt out is already in their vocabulary and they use it, but they just blurt it out in inopportune times.
Yeah,
I
and with
don't
that,
think that his condition should be used as an excuse, but I also blame the producers of the show because they could have blinked it out. Yes, it happened, but they didn't have to make it so public without, they could have edited it out. It's what I'm trying to say, to make it
right.
bigger than what it should have been.
And
I
here's
think
the
they did that on purpose.
and something similar to that happened about 20 almost 20 23 24 years ago at the Super Bowl. There was a certain popular woman singer and a popular guy singer, and there was a wardrobe malfunction. And they said nothing to him, but she got all the heat. I can't quite put my finger on why, but It's like when stuff happens to people, to us, said when some people have us, when it's up to us, we have issues and we catch all the heat. Now, Miss Kim, I'm gonna ask you the same question I asked Big Al. Had that happened around your way or happened and you were in the vicinity, what would have been your reaction?
Yeah. Ooh, I probably would have said something. I probably would have asked him to be escorted out because you offended people around you. I probably would have wanted to put hands on him, but I know that wouldn't have been an appropriate thing to do. But yeah, I would have asked for him to be removed.
And would you have done anything physical?
No, I probably would. I probably would have wanted to, but I probably wouldn't have. Just because I guess me having the background of working with people with various disabilities, you get angry enough that you do want to lay hands, but I would have, and I would have asked for him to be removed just in case any other outbursts that would have been offensive around other people if he couldn't, control himself for that period of time.
Understood, understood. And I'll be leaning more to like Big Al. I might have been I might have got walked out because I may have had some put some hands on him, and I don't mean in prayer, but you know
You know,
something.
I don't know if I would have got physical. I probably would have been in too much shock. Like my mouth jaw probably would have dropped. Like, did he really just say that? I don't know. I would have been angry, but
Yeah,
I think I would have been shocked, too
I'm
shocked to
with
do
Apple.
anything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm with Apple on that.
That's that's one of those things that you have to look and say, what would you do? Because for the most part, would he have said that had he been in a room by himself with Deloy Lindo or Michael B. Jordan? Let's put it that way. What do you think, Miss Sum Sum?
I don't know. It just seems like it, he just to me he shouldn't have been there in the first place as far as I'm concerned. When you have a quiet setting, people are talking about important things. Some people just don't belong there. And I don't know the full extent of, you know, of that type of a handicap, but could he have covered up his mouth if he felt something? I mean, could he just keep something over his mouth to prevent him from yelling? Because you got to say the full N word and very clear and loud. I mean, could he have covered his mouth and just heard a mumble just to, you know what I mean? It's like certain things. If you're going to go in that environment, you should be able to have certain type of safety precautions so that you don't offend somebody. And then again, to me, like you all said prior in the beginning, for everybody else to get the F bomb and all of this stuff when they were speaking, and for it to be covered, and then for that one they let go, that to me was unacceptable. That broadcasting, uh whoever they whoever covered that should have been uh I don't know, fined, reprimanded, whatever you want to call it. That should have not, we should have not known about that. Only the people in that setting. And then they should have dealt with it there. If I was sitting next to him, I would have, you know, I agree with Kim. I would have gotten up. I would have made him feel uncomfortable, even though, and it's sad, a part of me feels a little bad about it, but because not in the fact that of what he said, but if he does not have control over that, yes, that may have been in his subconscious and he went ahead and blurted it out. But I truly feel like, there's a time and a place, and he did not belong in that type of environment. Now, WWE, Raw, and in the crowd and all of that stuff, if he has his Tourette's and he just blurts out something, maybe people might be more acceptable to that. Or if he's in a football game where he can be drowned out a little bit, maybe. But when people are quiet, you can't go to the opera like that. You can't, a concert, yes, something where you're drowned out, but certain settings and things of that nature, that type of a handicap is not that type of environment for him to be in.
And but like I said, it's one of those things that when we look at those, a lot of people don't want to hear that. They don't want to, I don't want to hear that. And the fact that, like I said, everything just seemed too convenient. Public TV, and they ain't bringing him out like they wore out Will Smith. And Will Smith was wrong for what he did. Hey, I ain't making no excuses, but let's. I don't think that he will get as much backlash and smoke as Will Smith got for doing what he did to Chris Rock, because he cussed on there. He cursed on that, and you heard it. He said, "Keep my wife's name out your effing mouth." So
But
that should tell you.
here's the thing, will Michael B. Jordan and that cast of Sinners, or any other black actor for that matter, go into those types of settings now without seeing if he's going to be present? Because to avoid anything from that, like that happening again, they're going to lose out maybe on a lot of black actors going to these type of award shows if that man is there.
That's true. But that's I'm just saying it's just I don't know, because like Big Al said, those people getting real comfortable. They're getting real comfortable with being they're getting real comfortable with being how can I put this? With being what they want to say. Because there's a lot of things I want to say to folks, but I know I would catch something. I would catch hell. But overall, we look at it like, are we are we getting too permissive and allowing stuff to happen without it getting noticed? And I don't think this should be slide by. And like I said, I have two children on the spectrum, and I understand working with people with um with disabilities. I don't like to use the word handicap. I say disabilities because you're not able to do something that a person that's able to do. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. It just vexes me sometimes. But what else have we what else have we what else have we done? I mean, let's talk about individuals. Has anybody ever called you that in your face? And when they did, what did you do? I'll start. Um, Me and my boys, I was a senior in high school, and we were in this neighborhood called Ravenswood. It's another projects down about a couple of blocks from our projects. and there was a guy I knew from Catholic school, and we walked by and everything was good. You know, they said something, they was talking slick, and we just kept walking because we like, nah, and then we heard N-word, N-word, we coming to get you. So we ran, and my boy Caesar, you know, God rest his soul, he said, I ain't do nothing, so I ain't walking. We turned around, they tackled him, and then they were chasing us. So we went back to the projects and said, look, hey, some white boys is coming, and trust me, when they mobilized, there was about 300-400 black people that were and Hispanics that were not happy. They got there, them dudes scattered like roaches. But you know, the thing was that smart people ain't gonna say that in your face. They might think it, but they ain't gonna say it in your face. What about you, Apple?
Um, when I was in South Carolina at the fair, I was walking and a group of white guys in a car called me that. That was my first and only time that someone called me that in person.
Mm.
But you know, they drove by. They just yelled it out the window, and I was shocked. It was nothing I could do about it at the time. But you
Yeah,
know, I don't think I've been back to the fair in South Carolina after that.
yeah, I don't
I
think
was pretty scared. I was young. I was, you know, I think I was about 18. I was young, and I was scared. I was by myself.
I can understand that. I can
So
definitely understand that.
yeah, but like here in the city, they wouldn't dare. Not when I was younger, and you know, in Queensbridge, and as an adult in the neighborhood I live now, they wouldn't dare. So yeah, no matter how much, you know, the orange turd emboldens them, they wouldn't do that.
Roger, I understand. What about you, Miss Sum Sum?
Sorry. So I was called the N word when we were stationed upstate New York in Governor,
Oh,
New
you
York.
lived in Governor?
Yes, I did.
Oh, dang. I stayed on main post when I was stationed there.
Yeah, that was so we stayed in military housing on Governor, New York, and I we had a Rottweiler at the time, and I was taking the Rottweiler out. Um, so it to me it seemed like the surrounding area around the military housing was very run down, very poor. Um, and it's almost like the military funding kept the stores going and things of that nature because everything was just so run down looking.
And the only
And
thing they had up in Governor was the prison.
yes, and that's the first time I ever saw Acme and all these different type of stores. And um, I was walking the Rockwaller out of the military housing, and I was passing a nearby neighborhood, and it was trailer park, and I saw these two kids playing in the yard, and the little boy said, "Oh, mom, look at that," and walking her dog. And the mom was in the house. It was a really, I'll never forget, it was a heavy set lady, and she was staring at me. And I just kept walking the dog. I didn't stop. And she says, she better not say anything either, that, and she better not say anything. And I remember I was shaking, and then I just kept walking the dog. I walked back to the house. I called my husband and told him what happened. And he talked to his first sergeant and told him. And then I don't know what they did, but they apparently there was another area that I had to walk the dog, and I couldn't walk it in that section. I think they may have had problems with those people before,
Mm.
but in our neighborhood, it was very mixed. You know, we had a lot of different nationalities, but as soon as we came out of that neighborhood onto the main road, out it was a whole different thing. They had the what did they call? I forgot. I don't know if they were Mormons, the people with the black buggies
You
with the
talking about the
horses.
Amish?
The Amish, thank you. Thank you. It was a lot of Amish on the road. It was quite an experience because I was coming from Virginia Beach to upstate New York. So even in military housing in there, it was still a little bit blended. But then when I got up there, I was shocked. I was shocked. I could not believe it.
Yeah. Oh, trust me. I'm well aware of Fort Drum. For all those people that don't know, if you've never been up there in Watertown, at the time, I don't think they do that. I think they turn those over. But there were three areas that were outside of Fort Drum that military families lived. One was Governor, one was Loudville, and one was Sackett's Harbor. They had housing out there in a town called Calcium. Um, they had a few, and what it was Fort Drum at the time pumped in almost $500 million a year into that economy. If they weren't there, it wouldn't be nothing up there. And um, yeah, so you had that. That was the only time they ever saw a person of color if they were in prison or in the military. They didn't live. There weren't too many people that lived out there that were black, and so you did have a lot of incidents like that. And you thought you was in Alabama. Big Al, I know you coming from Louisiana in the South. Um, how often were you called that, or did somebody call you in that area?
Uh, from my experience, the W boys only get brave enough to say something like that when they have overwhelming numbers, 5 to 1, 10 to 2, then they get brave enough to say that. I've had people during my military career who wanted to, but they were afraid to. But I did have one incident in ROTC summer camp where a white boy called me that. And what they hate more than the N word is trailer park cracker. And I
Hmm.
responded to him in kind as being a trailer park cracker. And what made it unique is I was the only black in the company. So I got a company of white boys, and I was the only one. And they thought I was a little crazy anyway. And that's what I had to do, play crazy, just to make them respect me. So when I called them that, they all looked, and he and a couple of others said, "Well, we're going to have a blanket party for you tonight." And I said, "Okay, good." And at that time, we were able to keep our M16s in the barracks with us. And I said, "I want all you MFs to come." And I don't want to be disrespectful to the women on here. And I said, "I have 2 clips of ammo that I kept from the latest range. And I want all you MFs to come, and a whole bunch of y'all gonna die tonight." And from that point on, they didn't have no problems with me because, like I said, I knew I had to put my best act on because they would have completely run me out of there had I shown any signs of weakness. So they thought I was really crazy. And that's what I portrayed. And that was the only time it was said. I responded with low life trailer park cracker. And that stung him more than him calling me the N word.
Now, did you ever see any of those guys after advanced camp?
Oh, yeah. And they all wanted to be very nice to me, but I resisted it. They wanted to go fill my canteen up with water. They wanted to do this. They wanted to just wait on me hand and foot. And I said, not only no, but hell no. Because God knows what they would not have put in my canteen
Oh
or
yeah,
what they tried to
definitely.
do. So once you show me who you are, I believe it, and I feed you with a long stem spoon. And I knew all them crackers were all the same. He was just the one that was brave enough to say it.
They put probably put a battery in his back.
Oh yeah,
Um, that's one of
Yeah.
those things. Oof, yeah. Trust me. I know the military is less about that, but don't y'all think for a minute that they ain't those out there like that. Miss Kim, what about you? What was your experience with that?
I haven't heard anybody call me the N word, but I know a couple of people wanted to, but they probably did behind my back and didn't let me hear it because I've been told I look at people like they crazy and go ahead and try me. And you go and F around and find out. So personally, in my face, no, I haven't had that happen. No.
Yeah,
But like I
that's
said, I'm pretty sure it's been a lot of people that wanted to.
oh yeah, that's yeah, trust me, I understand, especially since you think about Georgia in the country, that some of them was just like, you
Yeah,
know,
and working with a lot of young white kids. Um, yeah, especially the line of work I did.
hey, Chocolate Pearls on. What's going on, Chocolate Pearl, my favorite girl?
Nothing much, nothing much.
Today
How's
we're
every
talking. I was go ahead, I'm sorry.
I'll say how's everybody doing?
We're doing everybody's doing well. We're talking about the BAFTA awards and what happened. Have you heard that story?
No. What
Um,
was
there was a guy, a white Irish guy or Scottish, when Michael B. Jordan and Deloy Lindo was going up. He yelled out the N-word, and they said he had Tourette's. And he was an activist for Tourette's, but he said in there. And then when the BBC, the British Broadcasting Company, aired it 2 hours delayed, they didn't take it out.
wow. No,
But they
I heard
also,
something about Tourette's, but I didn't know what that was, so I just passed by it when I seen it on social media. Um, other than that, no, I don't heard that. But Daff, he has a response to something about being called the N word.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dabs.
Hey, what's happening? What's happening? Yeah, so I've had it's for it had been a long time. It was so interesting because in Washington, most people think they probably heard it a little bit more, but in high school we heard it quite a bit. Um, but I hadn't heard it when I left. I hadn't heard it since high school, really. That directly called me the word, but until I moved down here to Florida, and I'm out at a I'm at a shop at a fruit stand on the roadside, and I get this. We're in a little rural town down in Central Florida, and of course, this big old truck and all these white guys come rolling by and talk, yelling. "Yeah." So I'm like, "Whoa, okay." So I got to come all the way to Florida to get this word again. It was kind of shocking at the time. I wasn't really expecting it, but yeah. This is what 2012. So yeah, 2012, 13, somewhere around there.
But that's just crazy though. You think about stuff like that, and it's just they talk about being a real American. I'm like, yeah, obviously, because America was basically founded on racism, but they don't want to hear that.
No.
There's a meme out there that's saying racism is the only invention white people who don't want to take credit for. They claim a lot of stuff, but
So
it
I just
is.
wanted to say, rest in peace to the young man that was lynched down south. Rest in peace.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I heard about that, and they're talking about suicide. Ain't nobody gonna no, no. And that though, and the craziest thing is the highest demographic that commit suicide are white men. So even under oppression and harsh living conditions, black people are less likely to self-delete than others.
Right.
So I know it's a trauma response, but we're like it can't get no worse than what we're doing here. So we're gonna stay as long as we can. But it's just I don't know. It's just interesting that a lot of MAGA saying that racism was dead until Obama was elected, and that don't even make half kind of sense. Half it don't even make a quarter kind of sense because hell, you know, if you didn't know Ruby Bridges, who was called that every day going to school, and she was in the school in a class by herself in the '60s, she's still with us. She'd be 72. She'd have been the same age as my aunt Catherine, who passed a couple of years ago. So it's not it's not ancient history. This stuff is not so long ago. Get over it. How can you get over something and you're still going through it? Can somebody answer that?
Exactly. Can't answer that to say exactly. Tell me something.
So I mean, I'm not trying to play victim. I mean, hell, some of the stuff I've done was self-inflicted. And I've been prejudiced, I've been bigoted, but I ain't got no power to be a racist. I can't, if me and a white woman, the white woman come and beat me with a baseball bat. If authorities come, who you think they're gonna arrest?
You?
Yep.
Ex- exactly. Exactly. So I don't, I don't like the way things are going, but I'm going to get through regardless. And that's how I think about it. So we just got to continue to not get the battery put in our back, but we just got to as Childish Gambino did in his song, on the soundtrack of Get Out, just stay woke because they be creeping and they try to catch you lacking and slipping. So you got to understand that. Got to keep one eye open, and a hand on something that you can get back at folks for trying to get at you. But yeah, it's I don't know why they go to those awards anyway, but it's one of those things that we look at and we try to just live our lives, but they're getting the majority population is getting a taste of what it is to be like us, and they just losing their minds. But to be blunt about it, they put themselves in that position. They asked for it in the way of not in the way of not dealing with us or not wanting us to have anything. They allow their betters to, the only thing they have is they celebrate their whiteness over being an American. Let me say that again. A lot of them celebrate their whiteness more than being an American
Fact.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Fact.
because, they don't ever say our country. They say my country, my country. It's my country. They don't ever say it's our country. And actually, um, I don't know, I don't know if anybody remembers a song by I want to say Woody Guthrie. This land is your land.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
We was singing it. That was that
Hmm.
that was the history behind that song was he lived in New York City in the early 50s to 60s, and he was a folk singer. And he saw what Fred Trump Sr. was doing in not allowing melanated folks to live in his buildings.
Mm-hmm.
So he wrote that song as a protest song to that. So that's why he says, "This land is your land. This land is my land." So, but like I said, most white people care more about being white than being American.
Right.
But that's yeah, that's I stand 10 toes on that.
10
But
toes
oh,
and foot.
10 toes, 2 feet, 2 legs. Exactly. But we I mean, this is a I know I've been trying to keep it up, but you got to keep up with what's going on in the world because those that are ignorant about the world are going to suffer from the world. And I want
Exactly
everybody to
talking about that. We were saying that people believe what they see on social media or the news instead of researching and finding out the facts. Um,
exactly. And they
the
don't
person,
want to. They really they look at it as George Carlin said. They tell you about the American dream because you have to be asleep for it to be real.
yeah,
Right.
right. And instead of
So, I
giving the
mean,
trying to make sure that the facts are right, they distorting the story. You know, you're taking down history.
exactly.
Even though it's in the past, it's still his story, and
Yep,
the story has already been there. You know, you can't erase it. It already happened.
you're
But he
right.
but he's trying
But they
to
want to hide it.
distort it. Yeah, he's
They
trying
want
to
to hide it.
distort it. You can't do it. You can't do that because guess what? Now, and I see it now, but you didn't see it before. This generation is starting to evolve on the past
Yeah.
and making sure that it stands 10 toes. You know, and it continues to go on and people learn a little bit more. But I'm glad that this generation now is doing a little bit more research and really seeing and letting it soak in of what really went on in the past and that it's never going to disappear because it's without certain people who without the melanin people, this United States would not be United States. And that's period.
Yeah, that's you're right. You're right. As much as they hate to say that, because whenever we say, and the crazy thing is that whenever we say, "Hey, look what we did," they got to come in and they have to come in and denigrate and say,
Yeah,
"Well, y'all ain't all that." Like, well, according to history, we are.
exactly.
We are. And one thing I had, I'd be having them threads fights and TikTok fights. I said, hey, they talking about the stat 13% of black people commit 50% of the crimes. What they don't say is that 50% of incarcerated black people are exonerated.
Right.
That's what they don't want to say. And I always say, so y'all lead the league in crime. Well, we're big. We have a bigger population, and if that's the case, you should be the most educated. Are you the most educated? Nope.
Oh,
Are
no.
you the richest? Nope. Are you the most healthy? Nope. So, in essence, that you know, you basically self-own when you say that. Now, I'm not saying that black people are on top of anything. We're close to the bottom and everything, and that's how the system's set up. That's how the system's set up. We work within the system now. If you could imagine, had they not had they not done all that flashback after the Civil War Reconstruction, where this country would be, where this country would be. We talking about how great it was. It could have been a whole lot better had they lived by being American, if they lived by the Constitution that they don't read, or live by the Bible that they don't read. So a lot of times we look at that, but we make sure that we understand that, hey, we had a 400 year head start, and we still almost caught up to them, which is kind of sad on their part, but it's amazing on our part. We still have a long way to go, but we know without us, this place would definitely be Mayonnaise-ia. But I'm gonna I'm gonna I'm gonna close out the show now. I just want to thank everybody out there on TikTok land and Facebook land, YouTube land, IG land. I want to thank the family, my girl Chocolate Pearl, the lady Sweetest Snapple, Miss Apple, Sum, Big Al, Kim, Miss Nikki on YouTube. I want to thank everybody who comes in every week faithfully. And I ask the people that if you don't know, come on. You never know you never know what we're gonna talk about, but we're always gonna be deep and it's always gonna make sense. Chocolate Pearl, you got anything to say before we go?
Yeah, if you get a chance, watch the People's State of the Union tonight. It's on right now.
Yeah, I
The
ain't watching it.
People's State of the Union, not the State of the Union, but the People's State of the Union.
I understand. I still ain't watching it.
Thank you, Bob.
Apple.
Your read.
Good night, everybody. I'm glad I'm to be back, and see you next week.
All right now. Hey, knowing that you may not be all kings and queens because we can't all be kings and queens, but know that you are royalty. Go ahead, Big Al.
Yeah, what channel is the People's State of the Union on?
It's streaming. It's on the Midas Touch channel.
The
It's
Midas
on the
Touch.
what?
Midas Touch Network. It's streaming on
Yeah.
Midas Touch.
Okay.
It's
Yeah, you can
streaming
go on YouTube and pull up it's MEIDAS.
put
Okay.
MTN in it too. MTN Network.
Okay, good. Thank you.
But you can pull it up on YouTube. Hey, like I said, everybody come back next week. Let us continue to inform, entertain, and I want y'all to keep your head up. Like Tupac said, and like the sounds of blackness, be optimistic. On the behalf of myself, DFG, Chocolate Pearl, Apple, and Bean, we want to thank you for watching our show. Please come back, like, share, and subscribe. Peace.
Don't watch him. Watch the